What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon DC, and today we're going to be checking out the Fenghua TC21. At least I think that's the model name. Their website kind of more describes each knife rather than giving it a specific model designation, so not 100% sure about that, but of course I'll make sure to leave a link to where you can find this knife in the description of the video. Now this one is a SHOT Show sample coming to me by way of the Apex Pass Around group, so I don't even have any packaging or reference material for it. It was literally pulled from the SHOT Show floor, but once again I'll make sure to leave a link to where you can find it in the description of the video. Now Fenghua is a brand new company that's actually part of 3 different companies that are sister companies, very similar to the Sencut Civivi Wii relationship. So they have a brand called Win Plus, it's their budget lineup, and that's anywhere between $40 and $100 so far. They have the Dream Tech lineup, which is their more premium lineup. That's anywhere from $200 to $500, so a much larger range, definitely more premium knives. The Fenghua lineup is sort of overlapping with that Dream Tech lineup, but more experimental knives. You're going to see these new patterns and weird features, and so it tends to stick around the top end of the range of the Dream Tech lineup, but it can get more expensive from there. In fact, this model costs $650, so ultra expensive. You are getting ultra premium materials, and again, some patented features that you're not going to see on any other knives. Really cool design, but again, very, very spendy. So this one is 7.28 inches overall. I mentioned those premium materials. We're starting with S110V on the blade steel, which is basically a more corrosion resistant S90V. We have TC21 for our handles, and that's a titanium alloy that aircraft application, so a little bit stronger than your standard titanium, and so TC21 there, I guess that's where it gets its model name. Both of those have been treated with this DLC coating, which looks great. I've been really into DLC coating for the last year or so, so I definitely enjoy that aesthetically. We also get a semi-integral design, and so I'm not sure if they classify this as an integral or not. In a sense, it is, in that we have one piece of titanium, and you can see no seams on our spine, one piece of titanium for the frame of this handle, and that wraps all the way around to both sides. However, both sides have been cut out and hollowed out and replaced with a TC21 inlay, and so that inlay allows them to put a little bit of weight savings in there, but also makes room for the track for this patented locking system. And so there's a spring hidden on either side in here as well, and so it's not a true integral in the sense that the handle is 3 pieces, but the cuts of it are an integral cut knife with a singular spine, the frame that wraps all the way around on both sides. So semi-integral, I think, is the most appropriate name for it. One thing that I really like that they did with this design is the integration of this lanyard hole, and you can see there's a groove along that spine to create that lanyard hole, which I thought was a pretty cool feature. Now, DLC coating all around, which again is going to add to that corrosion resistant and also just looks great. As far as the knife itself goes, again, 7.28 inches overall. We're getting 3.9 inches on the handle. That does extend up a bit, so cuts into that cutting edge with not really a finger twirl, but it acts as a nice landing spot for your index finger for sure. Very, very comfortable. Excellent ergos on this knife. It feels like it fits my hand like a glove. Very, very good fit. Obviously, your mileage may vary, but for me, full 4-finger grip with near perfect ergos. I love the way this one feels in hand. Aesthetically, I also love the way it looks. Really nice flow to this knife. Great for blade shape. Pocket clip disappears in the hand. Right hand tip up carry only, unfortunately. It is a very nice pocket clip, milled titanium as well, TC21, and nice groove underneath there, hiding one of those inlay screws as well. And these are regular torque screws, which is important when we get to the pivot we'll look at, but right hand tip up only. So that's the only real downside to that pocket clip. Lefties are obviously left out there, but overall a really nice pocket clip as well. Now I mentioned that pivot. This pivot's their Axel anti-rotating system, and so they have an illustration of the patent for that one over on their website. You can see it does seem to use some sort of proprietary tool that didn't come with this one. Again, this one was pulled from the SHOT Show floor. I would assume if you order this, you probably do get that proprietary pivot as well. It's not something I've seen sold on their website, so that makes me assume that you probably get it when you order this, but don't quote me on that. I don't know that for sure. Definitely worth checking in if you're thinking about ordering it and that's a concern of yours. But really cool kind of pivot there, non-tooled on our show side. And it's also pretty lightweight at about 3.2 ounces. Usually integrals tend to be a little bit on the heavier side, I think because they can't really do the milling on the inside of that to cut some of the weight. But in this case, since we have these inlays, there is a little bit of weight savings in there. And again, cutouts to make room for that locking system Our blade is about 3.39 inches, and again, S110V, really nice clean looking blade design on here. We have the Fenghua on the front, and then on the back, just the material, so the TC21/S110V. We also have a serial number, this one's 0007, so assuming out of maybe 1,000, maybe more, but 4 digits makes me think there's at least 1,000 of these. These have sold out on their website, but hopefully we'll see these come back in stock if this is something you're interested in picking back up. Now for me, the most interesting feature of this one has to be that locking system. They call it their Axel lock system, and they do have a patent on that. However, it's not the same as Benchmade's Axel lock. I'm not sure why they went with that naming, because obviously that's very confusing. It looks like a crossbar style lock, but there's a lot of differences. First one you can't really see is this does not have omega springs. So here you can see some typical omega springs and the shape of them, which has that curve to them. On the inside of this one, there is a straight spring that lines up with that locking mechanism. And so it is a straight spring rather than that curved spring. So that's very different. The placement, also very different. Typically a crossbar style lock is going to be right here lined up with the spine of your knife. This one is in a weird place. It almost looks like it just shouldn't work. It's in the way of the blade itself. But if we close this slowly, we can start to see there's a hole over here. Hopefully that's picking up on the flipper tab, and then another hole over here that act as the start and end of the track that this lock goes through. So there's a pin connecting each side of these locks, and that pin goes through this knife and just keeps it on track. And so really smooth for being on a track. Typically you would associate that with some grittiness and having a feeling of the track itself, but it doesn't seem to be making contact. It's just kind of traveling through that channel. And so ultra smooth action out of it, even though it is on a track. Now the other big difference between this and a standard crossbar style lock is that this one is going forward rather than being pulled backwards. And so we can see that if I manipulate this on the opposite side, you can see that lock being manipulated here. And so you're moving it forward rather than backwards. You still can use that as a deployment method. So I think that's really cool. I would definitely love to see that make its way into their Dream Tech or Win Plus lineup so that we can see a more affordable version of it. And they may have already done that. I haven't checked that thoroughly into the lineup since this is the first one I'm checking out, but definitely would love to see that on a more budget friendly version of this knife or another knife design, but with that locking mechanism. Really cool. Now there's several other deployment methods for this one. Your standard flipper up here, which works very well. That's probably my favorite for this one. Ultra smooth as well. You can also use it as a standard front flipper. I tend to get in the way, so this flipper tab has to reach all the way down here, and a lot of times I forget about that and my index finger is in the way, and so what'll happen is that it'll get caught on my index finger, and so I have to be very conscious to move out of the way on the way, or it does that, and so it'll just kind of get stuck there. Now you do have this thumb hole, which is too close to the handle when it's closed to access it for my thumb, but I can get my middle finger in there and do the middle finger flick. So if you want to middle finger flick it, that's definitely a possibility as well. All the different deployment methods seem to work pretty well, again, except for that thumb hole. Can't really get my thumb in there, but your mileage may vary. Let me know what you think of this one down in the comments below. For me, I think it's a really cool knife. I would love to get my hands on one. I don't know if I could pay that price point though. It's $650. I've mentioned this several times before, but it's starting to compete with some very good knives. And for me, I'd probably end up picking something Idaho made up at that price point. And so I would have a hard time justifying $650 on this knife, even though it has all of those premium materials. I love the design. It fits in my hand very well. Really fun knife to fidget with, and just an overall cool to see all of the extra features that they have on this one that you don't see on a lot of other knives, with the locking mechanism, with the pivot, with that semi-integral design. I think it's a very innovative knife, but a little bit pricey for what it is. Still very cool, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it down in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, or checking out some other content. All helps the channel out a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.